The MTDCNC podcast, sponsored by Langley Alloys, unique metals for demanding applications, providing first-class performance and an international service.
So welcome to another MTD podcast being filmed here at our headquarters in Burton Latimer. This podcast is about MACH 2024. I'm joined by Gio and Joe, and we're going to be talking about some of the companies and some of the stands that we're going to be frequenting during the event. Now, the event runs from April the 15th to the 19th. That's 5 days, Monday through to Friday. It's at the NEC in Birmingham. We'll have our own stand there, so you can come and visit us, or we would encourage you to come and visit us at the event. We're in Hall 19, stand 549, which I think as you head into Hall 19, if you kind of head right for the centre, that's about where we're going to be. Every day from 4 o'clock, we're going to be doing a live podcast in association with the MTA, so you can come and watch that, or watch that on YouTube as well, or you can come and watch it live at the actual event. So, Joe and Gio, welcome to the podcast. Good to see you guys. It's the first time we've done this for a little while. So
it's been a while, isn't it?
It has. I'm looking forward to getting your opinions on not only the stands that we're going to be on, but also the event in general, because it seems to have gone really quick since 2022. I always find that after a MACH show, you, as you walk out, as you exit the doors, you see, dates for the next one, which is in 2 years' time, and you think, oh God, that's an eternity away. But gosh, it comes around quick, doesn't it? I mean, Lindsay did a poll, actually. It's probably a point to start on, or a question on a social media platform, asking when was your first MACH show, and it actually got quite a bit of engagement. Did you guys answer? And if you didn't, or if you
I
did,
can you tell us? Should we guess? What do you think my first one was?
Well, I would guess you would probably, I don't know, 2006, something like that. 2006.
Mine was 1996.
Was it really?
I'm sure it was 96, yeah.
And when was yours, Gia?
Well, I reckon mine was around 2010. So
I think I was I thought I was quite a late comer to it. But actually, when I looked back at my career, I think I attended. It was either 2000 or 2002 when I was working for, in fact, one of the companies we'll talk about today, Microlock. So, but then I went as there in 2004 for DMG. What was DMG then? And I think in 2006 I would have been for Mills CNC. So I think I am early 2000. So you are quite late.
I've never exhibited. Yeah. I've always been a visitor.
Oh, really?
I've exhibited as MTD, but never. Yeah. Never.
So, but you exhibited.
I was completely the opposite. So when I started with first MTA Kitagawa Europe, that was my first MACH.
Right.
So, and I can remember it was, I believe it was my first ever year. So I did Southern Manufacturing in the February, and then MACH pretty much straight after that year. So got chucked in straight in at the deep end. And you know what? That for me was proper selling. I absolutely loved it, thrived off it. It was a brilliant
I always found the challenge
experience.
Was that it was always around that kind of centre part of the day from 11 till 2. You were just inundated with people that wanted to see you, and they all kind of descended at once. And you'd look left, and there's someone. You'd look right, and it was trying to manage your time in accordance with seeing everybody you wanted to see.
And that's normally your lunch break from 11 till 2.
So I had to eat early, so have a big breakfast and then a big dinner. So it kind of worked.
I thought it was brilliant. I've got some really great memories from back then.
Well, I'm sure we'll make even more memories this year, like we did in 2022. So in association also with our sponsors, Flegg, who will be on our stand. We'll have a forklift truck of theirs on our stand, and it's probably a good place to start with them. Gio, you've done a lot of work with Flegg. Really proud to have them as our sponsors. What do they do, and what will they be showing? And why should people maybe come on our stand and interact with those guys?
So it's Flegg Projects. So they're our proud sponsor, and I've learned a lot about their business since they became our sponsor. They keep the machine tool industry moving effectively. But what I didn't realise is the amount of work that goes into not just moving a machine, but maybe relocating a factory, the planning and health and safety that goes into this. And they're moving effectively what could be up to £1 million worth of equipment. There's a lot of work involved in that to ensure that it arrives safely, number one, that it doesn't harm anyone when they're putting it into a factory where there's people around, and that they can get it there as efficiently and as quickly as possible. Because obviously, in our industry, we need to get that machine up and running and commissioned as soon as possible. And learning about their business, they do work for all sectors. They do work with Aston Martin on projects there. And
I mean, are they generally typically working with a machine tool vendor or somebody that's supplying the capital equipment, or do they work? If you were moving factories, flag someone that you would phone up and say, "Actually, guys, we want to commission you to come and do this whole job." Exactly
that. So yes, they do work directly with industry. Herco and Dave Waghorn are using Fleg and Fanuc as two examples. But like you just mentioned, end users that need to relocate their factory or have just had a new factory built and they want new equipment going in there, these are the guys to call. And I think it all comes down to, when you're doing something so important as moving a factory or moving a very expensive piece of equipment, you want to have that reassurance and that trust that it's going to be done correctly.
It's got to run like clockwork, isn't it? When you're taking multiple machines, moving factories, it's as much as the planning as much as anything else, isn't it? You don't want machines waiting in car parks waiting for another machine. It's all about the planning.
It's a perfect fit really for our channel because we at some point in time, end users will buy a new machine or they'll have a machine going out. Our clients are selling machines, so it's a perfect fit for our channel, and they really, if you have a look on their website, and they really invest in the latest technology and equipment to move the machines that they're moving.
I guess it's like when you go to MACH, if you go, most of the people watching this, probably they turn up at MACH on a Monday to Friday, they don't see everything behind the scenes as the show is being prepared, as all the machinery is coming in. It's kind of similar in a sense, isn't it? The logistics, the planning, what goes in first, what goes in last, what comes out first, all these things often overlooked. So it's
massively overlooked. And I think that it's not something, say for example, you are a manufacturer, a machine shop, but it's not something that you do all the time. It's not something that you do every day. But when you need that company to come and help you, who do you call? Who can you trust and who's reliable, who can do it on time? Fleg are the people, and they're going to be on our stand. So please, come and visit our stand and meet the guys from Fleg and just have a chat with them, because you never know when the day will come when you'll need a company to relocate.
And the hope is that you're moving to a bigger factory.
Exactly.
Your business is growing and you need to.
So really exciting to have them on our stand.
Good. Okay, so we're going to touch on some of the other stands and the companies that we're going to be filming with during the week, and kind of give you our opinions on why we think you should visit not only the MACH show, but go onto these stands as well to look at some of the technology that they're going to be showing. The first one, Joe, Ceratizit. We do a lot of work with Ceratizit. Very big name, always big at MACH, always have a big stand, always a stand to visit. What are some of the feature points that Ceratizit will be telling people about this time around?
Yeah, you rightly said they always have one of the largest stands at MACH, and with good reason. Lots of products. They always have lots of customers and prospects and staff on the stand. But obviously, very well known for cutting tool solutions. One of the leaders here in the UK for that. But it's far more than that. It's work holding. It's everything in and around that machining process. They're going to have a whole suite of vending machines there with obviously qualified staff to advise you. Do you just want a simple machine to house product in, or do you want something with full traceability for your machining processes? How much have I spent on a particular job and things like that. But they do lots of little things. Complex spindle head, that's something they're launching at this one. I believe it's a MACH premiere. Basically, it's the world's only born head that interacts with a wireless spindle probe interface. So you imagine you machine a component, probe it. It's undersized. The machine automatically, it essentially expands, it grows the boring head, and then it will remachine it to the parts correct. They partner with Bloom on that, Bloom Overtest, and that's really innovative solution. So I urge you to go and see that. And everything you'd expect, thread mills, ISO turning, high feed milling, everything you'd expect from a leading company, really.
How is the vending world going these days? Do you see out and about? I mean, is it still It's one of those areas I always found a few years ago that the adoption was fairly low compared to what you would have thought it should be when you consider how much more efficient it can make you and stop bottlenecks and all of those things, or ensure that you've got the right product at the right time.
Well, you make a good point. Vending machines not too long ago weren't seen that often, whereas now you see them everywhere. And there's a good reason for that, really. If you're a large manufacturer, you can have vending machines local to the machine. That reduces headcount, to be frank. But it's basically 24 access to your cutting tools, automatic reordering. In some cases, it's restocked by the manufacturer, things like this. So to me, they're an absolute no-brainer. If I was having a machine shop, my first thing would be a machine. And if I had one machine, I would still want a vending machine.
And do you know one of the reasons when I used to work, or just when I came out of my apprenticeship, guys used to go to the stores and they used to get, I know you're talking about cutting tools and other things, but they used to go and get pairs of gloves. They used to get, rolls of tape and things like that. And they just used to take them home. And they genuinely did. But this kind of solution doesn't just make you more efficient, but it stops some of those circumstances happening if you apply it to those types of products.
I think it's monitoring.
Yeah.
It's monitoring and measuring, the consumption of your cutting tools. So you can then kind of look at, well, why are we using so many end mills for this particular job? How can we reduce that cost? Because cutting tools effectively is your biggest cost, your ongoing cost in a factory.
But my point being, the bit I mentioned, is that applicable still? It does, because it used to happen, and it might be small fry in amongst savings, but it's still important to be able to control and make sure you've got
I think it's more than that. I'd hate to think that happens, but I'm sure it does, because that's just the world we live in.
He's got a pair in his pocket at the moment.
But I think it's more than that. If you know you're using some sort of RFID, fingerprint card, whatever it may be, and you're vending that tool, just by pure nature of a human being, you're going to be. It's not the fact you're going to take it home; it's the fact you're going to look after it. It's not. I'm not going to just leave it on the bench. I'm going to put it back in the box. Maybe it has to go back in the vendor or the regrind box. Gives you traceability, and I think I think that it's to your point.
Yeah, because without it, you don't really. If you're not monitored as an individual, which you are clearly, if you do it in this way. Yeah, where's the accountability?
Why is night shift using more 16mm mills than you? Why is this? Why is that? And not necessarily for negligence, but it might be, I'd be looking at my top 10 tools. How do I get price out of these? And it might be, I'm running Incanal, I'm running loads of it. That's just life. We can't improve it. Or it might be, do you know what? You're using a universal end mill for stainless steel. If all you're doing is stainless, it's to get you onto a stainless grade, to reduce the overall consumption of cutting tools. But they're great. They're great. The reporting, the fact that the 24/7 availability, £40 an hour, I think it's 66p a minute searching for tools. So why do that when there's a vending machine there?
And in answer to my original question, is the uptake growing a lot more than it would have been a few years ago?
Yeah. Engineers are getting more and more switched on, aren't they? Certainly business owners,
even in small machine shops.
Yeah. I was at one the other day. I think they got 5 machines, and there was a vending machine there. So we're seeing a lot more adoption.
Going back to your point quickly, Paul. You mentioned stores. This is a form of automation.
Yeah,
it is a form of automation. You're automating that particular process.
Yeah,
exactly. And obviously we're talking about vending, but anything you can think of will be on that stand. I say the workholding, the 0 points, CNMGs, ISO turning, milling, pretty much anything you can think of. Tool holders, of course, will be on the Ceratizit stand, and it's one of the biggest. They're great hosts. I urge you to go and see them.
Yeah. One last thing. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you carry on.
With Ceratizit as well, and we will be touching upon this with other clients that we'll be discussing during this podcast. But the specialists behind the products as well is so important. When you've got such a large product portfolio, you need to have them specialists to understand the application. So I would urge them to speak to the specialists, to challenge them and bring components along or component drawings to the show.
Well, yeah, because we tend to be a nation of people that believe we know best, don't we? When it's not necessarily
some of us do, Paul.
but it's you know what I'm saying. You get the point there. I mean, there is a lots of places you go, and you might present a product or a solution to an engineer, and immediately they're kind of going, well, hang on a minute, I'm already doing it in a way I think is the best possible way. But what we're saying here is, you never quite know whether you're doing it as well.
You don't
as
know
could
everything.
do it.
Nobody knows everything.
No, absolutely. Not even you, Joe. Okay, so let's move on. So that's the Ceratizit stand. That stand is Hall 19, stand 340. And next up, we're going to be talking about Matsura. So we'll be on the Matsura stand as well during the week. We always are at events. We work very closely with Matsura as we do with our other clients. We talk about their automation a lot. We talk about the machines that they've kind of broke ground in the modern manufacturing world, haven't they? I mean, some of their MX330 product that was launched a few years ago. There's now the MX420 10 pallet machine, which will be on show at MACH, amongst other things. They'll be showing unmanned running, the ability to monitor machining as we talk about, and becoming more efficient, and even small to medium-sized businesses adopting automation, which we've all seen, and you'll have seen if you follow our channel, that the blue machines from Matsura are frequently seen in new companies and even small businesses. So their message is working, isn't it?
I think that's the big thing with Matsura. There's two or three things that stand out for me. The automation element. They were supplying automation as integral part of the machine tool, probably in all fairness before most manufacturers, weren't they? They were producing.
Well, they were back in the 80s or 90s.
Exactly. Before people were really talking about it. So yeah, obviously back then they stole a bit of a lead. But now the other thing I see, it used to be large manufacturers that bought Matsura, whereas now you can go into somewhere. In fact, is it Superstar Components? Hardly any staff at all.
You got to watch that video on our YouTube channel. In fact, I think it's Neil at Superstar Components. Yeah, I mean he's got one of their, or might have a few of their machines, but one of them is just literally 24/7.
Doesn't stop,
and it doesn't stop. Yeah,
doesn't stop. And I think that's the ethos within that business. It's how do we keep your spindle uptime as long as possible.
Yeah. Go on, Jim.
No, I think when you mention Matsura, you automatically think about efficiency, productivity. I think that with the built-in automation is such an important factor to you've not got third-party automation product added to your machine tool. It's all built in and ready to go. And I think that it's always offered flexibility as well, not just for high volume work. When you've got a multi-pallet machine tool, you could be running different components on each pallet. So that flexibility has always been there. And I think it's, if anything, the Matsura now lends itself more to the current environment than it did in the past. So I think that the
messaging has kind of swapped from this. Automation is about high volume, down to lower volume, high value parts that you can.
But they can do both. They can do both, and I think that the value is more lower volume. You look at the aerospace industry, for example. It's lower volume work that repeats every month. I would assume that the medical industry is very similar to that. But then when you're doing high volume parts, you can also put it through the same machine tool.
Yeah.
So again, that flexibility to be running different components on the same machine tool with the output and the unmanned running and the 24/7.
And the challenges you face with unmanned running, it doesn't matter whether it's low volume or high volume parts. If you've got a mix of different parts, you've still got to keep that machine running, lights out. You've got to trust it. You've got to make sure that when you come in the morning, the parts are correct. And you don't want to have somebody that's continually having to intervene in order to monitor the process, because it defeats the object. So they will have the MX420 there, which is a 10 pallet 5-axis machine. With a whopping 90 tools these machines come with, which again just shows that they're planning the ability of these machines to run lots of different parts, because they've clearly got lots of different tools. But they'll be focusing on spindle uptime, OEE and reliability. But it's not just there'll be the MX850 there, which is a single table machine, and that's a beast of a 5-axis. It's the biggest in the MX series. They'll also have the new H Plus 405 12 pallet machine, and the H Plus machines, the horizontal frame. This is when we go back some years where we talk about Matsura have been in that business for a long time, and there's a lot of machines out there and still very popular. And they'll also have the Muratech. So you might look at Matsura and think you go into their stand just to see 5-axis machines, horizontal machining centres, but you're not. The other side of the kind of manufacturing arena being turning, this is an area that they're into as well. So they'll have
and the Muratech's almost like the turning equivalent, isn't it?
They
all
are
built-in automation.
All built-in automation, long runs, high value parts, high volume parts, and machines with multiple axes on them, so you really can tackle the most complex of components in one operation. So I think there's a lot of synergy between those two products, all of which you'll see.
Yeah. And it's not just subtractive anymore, obviously.
No. So going on, I mean, they'll have their stands. I mean, they'll have two stands there. So it will be Hall 20 stand 442 and Hall 20 stand 542. One of which will be the Matsura and the Muratech line, and then you'll have the HP 3D printers, the desktop metal 3D printers, which will be printing copper and stainless at the event. They'll also have their other products there that will be printing carbon peak, so perfect for the kind of aerospace and oil and gas sectors there. The 3D printing is quite an interesting one because it was, I don't know, I might be wrong here, but 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago where they really started with the HP line. Mm-hmm. And now you see so much of it, don't you? You see they kind of got into that market at the right time, and it perfectly complements the other products that we're talking about.
It's a massive part of their business. Obviously, it aids many Matsura users, workholding, things like this, but they're also selling them into places that don't need CNC machine tools, people where they wouldn't historically have called upon. So whether that's the plastic side with the HP, they mentioned desktop metal, which is stunning technology. They've got something for everyone, haven't they?
Yes.
Yeah. I agree with you, Joe. It opens up new markets. For sure, and I think it's changing the landscape of engineering with this new technology, because we can now redesign componentry with a fresh pair of eyes, because we've not got the constraints of the technology that we had in the past. So now we can design whatever we want, how we want, that's fit for the application or the whatever that part is for in one as well. So in the past, certain parts for aeroplanes and cars needed to be manufactured, several parts just to create one part, but now it can be done all in one. There's so many avenues now that it opens up.
And I didn't go to Southern Manufacturing, but I think you guys did. But they had a brilliant demonstration, which is also going to be in action and being machined at the MACH show, which was like a
V8 engine block.
V8 engine block. So get yourself to the Matsura stand, not only to see the machines, but to talk to the guys about. I think that the market these days in this country, the troubles that companies have with finding skilled staff, finding labour even, it all feeds into this requirement of being able to have automation, be more efficient, keep your footprint down, keep the costs of machining down. So, make sure you keep your spindle uptime going and you're as efficient as possible. So they're all topics you'll be able to talk to Matsura about at the up and coming MACH show. Let's talk next about Hoffman. Gio, this is a company that you and me and you have been there recently. We do a lot with. They're very much similar to some of the topics we've been talking about so far in making sure that they offer their customer the right solution in everything that they do as an offering, isn't it? And I think that's what they'll be communicating at MACH, that they're a company that you can visit and talk to about every aspect of what you need in your machine shop.
Absolutely. I think that their mantra is, making customers more successful by increasing productivity and simplifying procurement. And that's their kind of philosophy.
So give us an example. Let's pick an example of someone that's watching this and going, okay, so you're telling me Hoffman are going to be this solution provider, but could you broad brush how that would look?
Yeah, absolutely. So Paul, if for example you were an engineering company and one of the specialists from Hoffman Group UK come to visit you, they would look at your inefficiencies and they would look at ways to implement their products to make you more efficient. So that could be everything around the machine tool, effectively, from vending solutions, which we've already talked about, which are effectively automating the procurement process, and it gives you the ability to monitor your usage and, again, making you more productive and efficient. But then the cutting tools, so they supply a very large range of cutting tools that, again, the specialists can come in and look at your current processes and look at ways to improve that process. And we've been out doing case studies for the Hoffman Group UK at Merck Aerospace is one perfect example where they implemented some new tools and the savings were absolutely astronomical. Then you've got PPE, you've got metrology solutions. So they will go in and just look at the complete package and ways in which they can save you money. They've got a guaranteed savings plan. So they don't just say, we're going to save you money. They'll guarantee you that they will save you money. So how can you not? You've got to go and visit them and find out more. Because if you're a manufacturer, yes, you're looking to save a second here and a second there. But then if you've got a backlog there, you're not really gaining anything, are you?
I mean, you've run a machine shop, Joe. Would you in the I don't know, many decades ago, but would you have engaged with companies to do similar activities for you? Or would you have found it hard to get management to agree to do things like this?
We were never offered any sort of guaranteed savings plan. For sure, we'd have taken that up. I'm from a SMED background, so a lean background. So it's something we used to
physically?
Do. Of course, yeah. But for sure. Yeah, for sure. It's the amount of manufacturers, and it's more than not actually that. We all go, and we're not saying we're the best engineers. There's some wonderful engineers in the UK marketplace. But when you go around these shop floors, it's very rare you don't see something that stands out and you think, do you know what? There's improvements to be made.
And when you're
there.
Working in it all the time, it's hard to see it. You don't see it.
Exactly right. It's using Hoffman and their guaranteed savings plan. It's a good place to start, isn't it? Come in, fresh set of eyes. They've got like a consultancy style of selling in that scenario. And yeah, why wouldn't you? I
think you've hit the nail on the head there, Joe. Consultancy. I think that in not just in the UK but around the world, we've got a skills shortage in engineering, and what better place to showcase engineering than MACH. However, these companies and manufacturers now are leaning on suppliers more than they've ever done in the past. So they're not just selling a product; they're selling a solution. And I honestly don't think you can sell anymore unless you can sell a solution. You can't just give them a product and say, "There you go, Mr. Customer, fill your boots."
But I think for me, we talk a lot about solution selling, and so do our customers. I think it's really important to get under the surface of that, which, to maybe compare it to situations that we've been involved in, or like you say about the Merck Aerospace, because everybody these days, it does seem to be the kind of go-to phrase, doesn't it? We sell a solution. We know our market needs that. Our market clearly needs that because we don't have the skills. A lot of companies don't have the skills in their own workforce to be able to do it, and you do need a fresh set of eyes.
But also, Paul, sorry to interject, but also, these engineers are cocooned within their own environments, and sometimes they don't know the latest innovations and technologies that are out there that are available. And I think that's where MTD comes into play through our digital platforms. But it's so important that they visit MACH, but they get to learn about these new technologies and how they can apply them to their own applications. And without the specialists, this would not be possible.
Yeah, no, I agree. So that's the Hoffman Group. Their stand is in Hall 6, and it's stand 159. And once again, we'll be on that stand during the week, so you'll be able to visit, and would encourage you to visit. But of course, if you can't or you missed them, you'll be able to catch up on MTDCNC. Sodic is the next subject for us. Sodic Europe, in association with Sodic in the UK, have the largest ever stand, and it's in Hall 20, and it's stand 350. It's the largest ever stand they've had. Sodic in the UK, the suppliers of the Sodic machines. Now, the showstopper for them is their new VN range, the VN 600. There is actually a series which we've released on our website. If you visit mtdcnc.com, you'll be able to scroll down the homepage, and towards the bottom of the homepage there's a series of 6 episodes on the VN range where we've taken into account all of the kind of key features of the machine, the economy, the operator friendliness of the control, the ergonomics, the efficiencies, and we've broken it down into these 6 episodes, and it really is a good watch. Lindsay did a fantastic job as ever. So did the video editing team. But if you want to see the machine in its flesh, then you will need to go to the MACH show. Now, the VN 600 is a wire EDM machine. can boast up to 20% savings in energy costs due to various features that they have on the machine, and also thanks to the some of the elements of the control, they can increase cutting speed by up to 15% as well. Now, the Sodic machines have got a history of being thought of as this kind of premium end, expensive, high value parts. They really fit in that area, or have been thought of to be fitting in that area. But then the new VN range is perfectly placed now to be able to satisfy the needs of maybe the companies that have less to invest but still want to produce parts of extreme quality. They'll be building these to economies of scale, and they're at a price point which is really, really attractive. And I know you guys have seen these machines at the Sodic.
The VN600, there's no compromise on quality at all, but at a very affordable price. So again, I think that I would urge people to go and visit the stand and to find out more, especially if they've got misconceptions about cost, because obviously they are a very high quality provider.
Well, you're going to see their machines in the watchmaking industries, in the industries that really high value critical components, but you can now see them outside of.
Let's talk about some of the components, Paul. I mean, some of the components that you can make on these machines are components that can't really be made on CNC machines. Yeah. The complexity of some of the parts and some of the fine features, holes and features, and it's pretty much impossible to make them. Or if you did make them, the time that it would take just wouldn't be worthwhile.
And the risk associated making them in a different way, could give you a problem.
The surface finishes as well is another point to touch upon. I mean, it's incredible, the surface finishes that you can achieve, and the materials that you can cut so quickly. You mentioned Inconel earlier, Joe. You can go through that like butter on one of these machines. It's just incredible.
Yeah, on that BN range, and we saw Peter and the team over at EMO, and Sodic aren't expensive to start with. Don't get me wrong, but they're a premium machine tool, but they're never as much as some people may think. But when you look at this VN range, and I know the price, Peter told me the price. I'm not sure if we're able to say this, but you need to go. You'll be amazed how affordable this new VN range is for somebody that maybe aspired to be a Sodic user, but maybe couldn't justify the increased price of one. This VN range, it's perfect. It's perfect. It fits that. But I can see why they've done it. It fits it perfect.
Yeah.
And like Gio says, they're not buying cheaper drives, cheaper controls.
No.
It's the same components, just like economies of scale. So yeah, do go and check it out at the show.
And I mean, some of the features on it, the iGroove technology, where the wire rotates as it's cutting to become more efficient, all these things still apply to the VN range, and the control system as well. Very, very easy to use. Very, very easy to navigate to, even program to machine some quite complex.
And they can be automated as well.
Correct.
So they're automation ready, a big point really, which you don't really associate them types of machines with.
Yeah, no, exactly.
No.
And it won't just be that machine they'll be talking. They'll also have their injection molding machines there. And again, a business that's maybe not known for injection molding machines, so they'll be taking that to the event. There'll also be their AD35 EDM die sink machine. So there's plenty to see. As I say, it will be the largest stand that Soditech UK and Sodic Europe have had at MACH, and it's in Hall 20, stand 350. So moving on, we will be let's talk about Heidenhain. We've talked about machines, we've talked about suppliers, or cutting tool suppliers and so forth. Let's talk about control systems and that area, because we'll be doing some stuff with Heidenhain as well. What would you?
Heidenhain, it's a control. We all know Heidenhain controls. I first came across them when I was doing my apprenticeship. That would have been 1996. I started when I was 5. But obviously, Heidenhain control, it stood the test of time. But the new control, the TNC7, it's a UK premiere. I have seen bits of it online, but I do urge you to go and see the stand. It's got various enhancements. It's got optimized machining through trochoidal milling, strategies like this. It's got automatic workplace setup for things like work holding. But the big thing, when you look at it, and I know we're in a modern world now, but it's just like an iPad. It's so easy. The training element would be, you'd be like that, really straightforward, easy to use, super fast control.
So is this, and you may not know the answer to this question, and if you don't, it's probably a good reason to say go to the show to find out more. But when I was in working on the machine shop or even selling machines, it used to be the TNC 426, the TNC 530, then it was the TNC 640, I think. So how many revisions on are we from that approximately?
I wouldn't have a clue how many revisions that would be, but I can tell you this has been the first big. A lot
For
of these,
some time.
Yeah, well, a lot of these controls, you get incremental improvements, don't you? You know, so maybe the control's 5% quicker, maybe it's a slightly more efficient here, but this is a complete step change in technology. This puts them back to where they need to be. And yeah, it does. You know, we've got this loads. It's intuitive. It's like a smartphone. The program and the setup is much quicker. So it's touch ready. It's like an iPad. So yeah, it's a big step change from where they've been previously. But I know you were a Heidenhain user, weren't you?
I absolutely loved it.
What
so
did you use? Did you use? Was it the 4? Was I right in the 426 or were you before?
I can't remember the version.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago, nearly 30 years ago. But when I come off the manual machines, it was Heidenhain that I started programming, and like even back then. It was just so simple. It's conversational. It prompts you. Each line, it prompts you. And if you've got a pecking cycle or a circle interpolation cycle, it's literally asks you questions and you just put the figures in. It simplifies programming. And I'm assuming now with
And
these
if it was
new,
like that then. Now,
and that's what I mean. I can't wait to see it.
well,
I can't wait to go. I don't know what it's like now. So I'm actually looking forward to see what it's like at the show. And I would also assume that the processing time has improved also.
Yeah.
And that is a big feature when the machine tools are obviously speeding up. So that it needs to keep up with one another, doesn't it?
It was one of my first educations into sales when I was working at Bridgeport back in the year 2000. One of the first things I learnt was the difference between analog and digital technology and what it means on a machine. And the easiest way to describe it, and this is all to do with the control technology, is the guys used to say, right, this is analog, right? The machine's going there, to there, to there, to there, to there, to there, right? Digital, it's going like that. But so now what that digital was then like that, this is obviously clearly even more smoother and more refined and... You know, so that's the enhancements, and I agree. It will be good to see how these things have changed.
Yeah. So from the demos I've seen so far, the information that's available online, it'll pick your strategy as well. So you know, we all talk about different trochoidal milling strategies, plunger milling, whatever it may be. This, I'm told, it will optimize your machine cycle for you. Obviously, all the modern considerations of a CNC control, it's energy efficient, it's more carbon efficient and things like this. So yeah, I'm excited to go and see it, and so I look forward to seeing it at the show.
Yeah, interesting. So even
and obviously, they've got other things as well. They've obviously got linear guides. They've got all their probing and things like that. So it's not just a control, but I think it's fair to say they wouldn't mind me saying the TNC7 will be the highlight.
Yeah, I mean, so it's taking we talk about skills and labour and stuff like that. It's taken a lot of the legwork and the hard work out.
I think also we've got to bear in mind is when I was programming directly into the machine tools, the components back then weren't nowhere near as complicated as they are now. Yeah. You know, there was very few 3D shaped components. Yeah. You know, you wouldn't have been able to have programmed them directly into the machine. Yeah. You know, so the simplification in some of these new kind of features have had to come because, you know, the components have changed. They've become more complicated.
When you were on the shop floor, so did you go and was there like a shelf where you went and picked your next job and you had a route card? And
I used to work on a cell called Strangers and Aliens in the air. Well, firstly, as a tool maker, we would make one-offs and two-offs and special cutting tools. And we wouldn't just make the cutting tools. Sometimes we had to make the work holding to hold the cutting tools, whether it's a tapered shank or whatever that, or we were leaving excess material on it so we could do it all in one and then chop off it. So it was all on 4-axis, 3-axis machine, but 4-axis rotary table, because obviously you're spinning the tool around, you're putting pockets in. So that was a great education where I first started to use Heidenhain. But then when I went into the aerospace industry, we were working on cells called Strangers and Aliens. And that was new engine parts that were coming in that we'd never made them before. So again, if it was a casting, we'd sometimes an irregular shape like that, you wouldn't have a work holding product to hold it. So we'd design our own fixture in. then we'd make the part. So we wouldn't just pick parts. It would be the
But
part
can you spot now, looking back, inefficiencies in the way the machine shop ran?
We were quite efficient back then. Obviously, we'd changed now and use robots. But even back then, our fixtures that we used to design, we'd design them with 0 point in mind, or we'd use dowels at the time. So that once we designed the fixtures and the work holding, I'd then put that fixture onto the production cell. And we'd so say, for example, we're doing all titanium parts. They'd go onto that machine, and we'd set up the carousel full with all the different tools that would lend themselves to that family of parts. So say if it was a 6.8 diameter hole on them parts and it's all titanium, on that machine we'd put the castings on, and they were similar, and so on and so forth. But it was all 0 point, and then we'd just call up the new program, and we'd know where the datums were, because like kind of
You were wasted here. You should be all that knowledge.
So we'd set all that up, and we were very, very efficient, and we were probably more efficient even back then than when I go out and see companies out and about are now.
And you need to know trigonometry back in those days.
And I could do trigonometry and Pythagoras.
Both.
Both.
Calculator.
Craig takes some doing nowadays. Craig.
Okay,
Let's
so that's Heidenhain. That's Hall 20, stand 310. Would encourage you to go to that stand and check out that new control system amongst other products that they'll have on offer. Next, I want to talk about Korea. And DTS UK will have their biggest stand in the company's history at MACH this year. And they will also proudly have the biggest machine at the show. So if you want to see the biggest machine you can possibly see at the MACH show, you need to go to DTS's stand, which is in Hall 19, 310. That's really centrally located. As I say, it will be the biggest machine at the event, a Korea machine. It's a double column Fox machine. Now, I have seen one of these. I've seen them at customers. In fact, we've been up and down the country. They're a popular machine amongst companies that are machining very large parts, aerospace industry, whatever it might be. But yeah, this will be the biggest machine at the show. Now, often when you see these machines on our videos or at customers when we filmed them, most companies will never have seen a machine of this size. They just won't. We're quite privileged. We see them when we travel around the world. But if you want to see something huge, this is a double column 5-axis machine capable of holding, it's a 6 meter by 4 meter or just over 4 meter table with almost 2 meters in the Z-axis. Now, MACH does have a lot of machine tools there, but as I say, when it comes to size, this really will be the showpiece. Mm-hmm. It'll have their popular UAD head as well. So if you're looking at ultra precision machining, if you're looking at achieving all kinds of angles which their UAD head can have, then you do need to visit the DTS stand. And we've seen the Korean machines. We saw the one at EMO last year as well, didn't we?
They're unbelievable. You'd be some people think these big vast machines are big, they're heavy duty, but people don't always realize how accurate they are, how nimble they are, how thermally stable they are. It's some of the components you see, you're not just hogging off vast amounts of you're not just roughing out a mold tool anymore. You can do lots of different things on these machines. And I think the big step change of late for Korea, they've always been in the particular market that they serve today, but it just the rigidity, certainly the new spindle, like you say, the speed, the accuracy, you wouldn't necessarily associate it with a machine tool that size, would you?
And I think that going back to your point about EMO, you literally, I was just thinking that when we went there last, and there weren't many of the big, because all of the big machines were really in one hall, weren't they?
Yeah.
And there weren't many of them actually cutting, but that they were, and the depth of cut was phenomenal. The depth of cut, I can't remember exactly what it was. So I'm sure they'll be doing the same at MACH.
Well, we
impressive.
labelled one once, something like the cut of death or something. I mean, honestly,
it's like a machine gun against a guy.
Yeah.
And I think what you said, Joe, as well, really is 100% correct in regards to you've got the head sticking out on the horizontal configuration and the droop. How they eliminate the droop, because you think of the forces that are going through that head when the head's fully extended. So the physics behind it and the technology and how it's been designed is phenomenal.
On that particular model, which is slightly different, the horizontal format, they have kind of like these box arrangements to give it full wrap round. But you're right. I think I mean, on this particular Fox, if you're talking 6 metre by 4 metre, if you do have a very large part on the machine, from one corner to another corner, you still need to maintain that. It's even more difficult to maintain precision over long distances.
Yeah, 2 or 3 microns over 300 mils, not the end of the world, is it? But when you're going down 6 meters, by the time you get to the other end, you're way out.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So, the biggest machine at the show will be a Fox 60 from Korea. It's got an ISO 50 UAD milling head on it. And, you will be able to see 6 meters in the XX, or 6 meters by 4 meters.
You'll be able to feel it, won't you, Paul? The Mac will be rocking with that machine, won't it? There?
Well, what I can tell you is that machine that you're going to see there is actually sold to a customer, and directly from the show, it's going to be shipped up to its new location.
Are we
so don't think you can go and buy it, because you can buy another one, but you can't buy that one.
Is it going in one of your garages?
Get in my lounge. Yeah, in my lounge. It is actually sold to a company up north, and we'll be going to visit it just after the event. They've got 450 machines installed around the world, Korea.
Wow.
Of that nature. That's an incredible statistic. So their stand again, Hall 19, stand 310. Now, when you go into a machine shop, it's not just about the cutting tools, the machines, the workwear, the solutions, whatever you call it. You need places to store product as well, don't you? And it's all part of a machine shop's makeup. We're going to be spending some time with Bot at the show. Joe, company that you have spoken with and done a bit of work with in the past.
Yeah, I think you would hope most people know of Bot, but when you go into a factory or a shop floor and you see it's clean, you're looking around for Bot, aren't you? For those that don't know, that they do lots of different things, but they'll be focusing on the range of the drawers, essentially tool storage. But it's very ergonomic. It's fantastic for 5S. It goes back to what we talked about earlier. You don't want to be walking around looking for tools.
That's how it used to be.
Cleanliness is a big consideration nowadays.
Where's that? Yeah, but that's none of that now.
No, they've got their new Cubio range they're going to be focusing on, which is UK built, UK designed. So that the quality, I think it's a 10-year guarantee on them now. But yeah, no, for sure. Again, if I had a machine shop, even if I had one machine, I would be buying, I'd be buying these solutions. I don't want to be looking for tools. I want to know exactly where everything is.
Is it a case of you can register tools in as they come in and out and things like that?
They do all sorts, Paul. It's limitless really with Bot. But it's, if you go into like, say, a Formula One company, a motorsport company, they've got great market share in that world. You'll just see, similar to this table, the drawer system, but obviously far, far better than this one. And they're just very well built, very rigid.
I think it's organisation, isn't it? If you're not organised, you're not efficient. Yeah. It's as simple as that. Yeah. And I think also now you go into machine shops, and I think that they've become more proud of what their machine shops look like in the past.
Getting away from that kind of dirty environment.
Exactly. You go to you mentioned Formula One companies. You go to them Formula One companies. It's like going into it's just pristine. You can eat your dinner off the floor. Yeah. It's amazing, and I think that most engineering companies now are showing a lot more pride.
It's a good point, actually. Yeah.
When they're bringing visitors or potential clients,
Oh,
that
would affect you placing business.
100%. 100%. 100%.
It'd be a massive consideration.
So there's lots of benefits, aside from just being organised.
I think Bot have been manufacturing. I think it's 40 years now in the UK. So they've stood the test of time. The company's way older. It's 90 years old.
Is everything pretty much made here?
I wouldn't say everything. They're a vast company with colossal turnover, but it's certainly for the most things you'll see here in the UK. It's drawer systems and things. It's in the UK, and they've got a massive installation team as well.
I think this is the great thing about MACH, isn't it? We've talked about so many various topics today, different types of machines, and we'll continue to over the next half an hour or so. But right the way down to storage and all of that. The next topic would be CAD/CAM, but before we move on to that, I'm just going to say that the Bot stand is in Hall 6 and it's stand number 135. So milling, turning, storage, workholding, cutting tools, CAD/CAM, Mastercam. Going to be doing some filming with them.
Yes, so Mastercam globally they're a colossal business with thousands and thousands and thousands of installations around the world. Here in the UK, they've been here for some time. Historically, they're sold through a distributor, now direct, and have bolted on a lot of resource, lots of technical people, obviously salespeople, but initially serving existing customers, but clearly they're gaining market share as well. They are attracting new customers. They've got various things on their software that they want to that they're promoting, but the one I want to talk about really is dynamic motion. So if you think of the whole journey of CNC program, we've gone from cards and tapes to full CNC, then of course into CAD CAM, and basically now we're getting to the stage, certainly with the Mastercam, it doesn't just you don't just run CAM. We've all seen machining strategies where you think, do you know what, I think there's not as much stock there as there could be, we could push it more. This new Mastercam, which they're calling dynamic motion, knows that, and it basically affects the cutting data to make it more efficient, basically. So we've gone from rudimental.
So give us an example of that then. So you're just about to perform a cut. It then feeds back and it says, hang on, we think we can push this a little bit harder, we can go deeper, we can go faster. Is that the...
Yeah. Obviously, I've got to go and learn more about it myself. But essentially, it changes your chip thickness and just gets that part off quicker. Essentially, it edits the data live in cycle.
Okay, interesting.
Well, in the cam, obviously, yeah.
So from a Mastercam perspective, then now in the UK used to be a reseller, but now it's a direct go-to.
Yeah, it's Mastercam, and you'll see more and more of them on our channels to start with, but on social media as well, and they are making waves for sure.
And I think when we talk about CAD CAM from an application perspective, I think all manufacturers are looking at ways to save money. Machine tools, to a certain degree, from a mechanical perspective, have reached their peak, and I think a lot of the savings now are coming digitally in all manufacturers' workshops. So I think that when you're looking at technologies like this, these are the areas where you can start to really see efficiency and productivity gains with the same machine tools. Yeah. So you're still using the same machine tools, but by changing these strategies, like Joe mentioned, you can start to really become more efficient and productive.
You kind of want to sweat the assets that you've got.
And exactly. And this is about everything that we're talking, Paul, because I think, we look at, especially over the last year, 2 years, the cost of living has gone up, energy costs have gone up, interest rates have gone up, material costs have risen. The cost per part that they had, or the margin in that part, has decreased. So how can they keep making money? And
the thing I find is talking to suppliers of parts into supply chains. If they go to their, and we heard one the other day, but if they go to their buyer and just say, I've got to put the prices up because I have to, because of the things that you've said, they won't tolerate it. It's just, sorry, you've got to make the savings your end, and that's really not helpful. But you have to. But
you know what this podcast is really highlighting, in my opinion. Obviously we do it on a daily basis at MTD, but it's highlighting how important the complete solution is. And you're only as strong as your weakest link. Yeah. So you need to be competitive, not just in the UK amongst themselves, but globally. You need to understand the complete solution and the processes that are involved to be as efficient as you possibly can. And hopefully we can educate our audience to the best of our knowledge. Yeah. However, they need to go to MACH and visit these stands and visit the specialists in their own right to learn more. Yeah. Education is key. And
throughout the week, throughout the MACH week, we'll be doing a live podcast every day, 4:00 from our stand. I'm just going to remind you of our stand number, or probably, hopefully you can, because it's escaped me.
Yes,
on my
I know
notes.
off the top of my head. He says, look.
But every day at 4:00 we'll be live streaming from the MACH show, and we'll be encouraging the companies that we're talking about to come and join us, as well as you, if you're a visitor and you want to get onto our podcast and talk about some of the problems that you face as a manufacturer and some of the solutions that you found at the MACH show when you're there. You're more than welcome to join us. Joe, what was the stand number?
It's Hall 19 529, and like you say, as you're going to Hall 19, pretty much it's in the centre. For those that came to see us at the last MACH show, pretty much an identical spot. And yeah, come and see us. We'd love to have a chat, love to have a drink. And of course, if we can help you, with your product, taking your product to market, helping you, increase your visibility, we'd love to do so. Whether you're a manufacturer of components or an OEM manufacturer, come and see us.
So that's our live podcast happening every day. We'll be doing filming at the MACH show and broadcasting from the event. So clearly you need to attend the event, but if you want to catch up, you'll be able to do that as well across our channels. So that was Mastercam. They are in Hall 17 and they are at stand 330. So that's Mastercam, Hall 17, stand 330. Next up, a company that is always at the MACH show, it appears, Citizen, Miyano. Now they'll be bringing a plethora of machines to the event. Gio, you've worked quite closely with Citizen in the past, haven't you? Whether it be sliding head technology with their machines or whether the Miyano fixed head, they'll have the option of both to see there with some quite new features too.
Yeah, really looking forward to visit the Citizen stand this year. I think I'm really excited to see the new Miyano BNE 65 MYY. Now, up to 65 millimeters in diameter. And with this machine, again, it's all about productivity. It's all about doing the part in one hit. And you can have 3 tools engaged at the same time. I mean, when you think about that, well, one, it scares me thinking, how the hell am I going to program that? But when you think of it and when you see them machines in action, it's you can't believe how efficient these machines are. They are money printing machines, and I think that the only limitations that they have got is the size of the component that you can make. And the other thing is turned and milled. So it's not just turned, but it's milled, and the milling is just as good as the turning. So, because again, I think there's a misconception is that it's just a turning machine with a bit of milling. No, think again. Mm-hmm. And you can make prismatic parts out of that 65 mil diameter to a reasonably sized prismatic part out of that diameter, and it's bar fed, so fully automated. And then you move on to the sliding head machine tools, which they're renowned for. Again, money printing machines, fully automated. They always have been. But again, to mitigate the misconception about it's only for high volume work, it's not the case. We've done some case studies and we've looked at it in the past from years ago, Paul, when people weren't really talking about doing lower volume work on them or making prismatic parts on them. But you can. Yeah. And then you combine all this with new technologies like LFV technology, for example, which eliminates vibration, it enables you to run through the night with peace of mind, chip control, to run through the night with peace of mind, because obviously you don't want that bird nesting when you're
and they've introduced this onto the Miyano fixed head machines as well, haven't they?
Yes, and I think that's revolutionary. Again, I'm looking forward to learn a little bit more about that myself, because I'm not an expert in any way, shape or form, but I'm looking forward to learn about how all these new innovations work, what kind of applications they really lend themselves to. But I think they're having a very successful time at the minute with these products. And I would again recommend people to go onto the Citizen stand and look at some of the new innovations and technologies that they've got on show.
I mean, I like this type of the sliding head technology. When you look at that reduction of cycle time, more tools in cut, and you look at it and you go, how am I going to? What's the best way to do it? And of course, that's when software comes into it, doesn't it? To enable you to achieve the most or the fastest possible production of product. But some of the machining operations that would be involved in maybe these decisions include things like superimposed machining, pinch turning. These are all areas of machining that will be a focus for Citizen, aren't they? Now I'm going to ask one of you. I know what superimposed machining is. I can visualize it, but boy, I find it difficult to describe.
Yeah. One point, just going back to the BNE 65 MYY, it weighs 8 tons. So let's put this into perspective in regards to it's a 65 diameter machine. 8 tons. So that really illustrates the rigidity of this machine and how fast it can be run and the the depths of cut and the different types of materials you can cut any. And going back to your point about programming and some of these different strategies where you've got all three tools engaged at the same time. It also fascinates me when you look inside the machine. It's quite a small envelope, how things don't collide. You're working on the front spindle, the second spindle, and everything's all moving all at once. It is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And like you mentioned, it's software. It's clever stuff.
I'm sat here trying to I can visualize it, but trying to explain it. Essentially superimposed machining. It's just I'm going to struggle thinking about it. So you can basically
put a caption over the screen.
Yeah, exactly. But basically, you got three tools in cut, and you obviously can be doing balance turning here. But your right hand spindle, your sub, well, it wouldn't be a sub spindle. Your second spindle, is coming in and out. I don't know what axis that would be. And essentially, you're using the turret, the same turret to machine it. And when you look at it, you think that's impossible. How can you do that?
But again, it all comes down to programming, timing, speeds, and all the rest of it.
Yeah. And in terms of LFV, what I like about LFV, I think low frequency vibration, isn't it? If anything is going to stop automation and a bar fed lathe, it's going to be swarf. It's swarf. It's swarf. Some of these materials is these long chipping. We've all seen birds nesting around the tool. You have to stop the machine. There's no way around it. And obviously this mitigates that. Basically, that's the big advantage.
Yeah. So there'll be lots of machines on show, and as Gio mentioned, a couple of the models will be some new product there. Machines with triple Y-axis. They're Simcom lathes with B-axis for 5-axis machining with Y-axis on them as well. The Mitsubishi M850W 15-inch control will also be on show on the stand. And I think controls are an important part of exhibitions because in what we do, we can talk about controls and we can film controls and we can film machines and people can see them. But engineers being engineers, they want to hands at a control, don't they? They want to touch it, they want to feel it, press the button, see what they can do, with certain features on them. And I think you can do that at these events, which is often hard to do. And of course, being at MACH, you could move from stand to stand and do it across the board.
I've got a question for you, Paul. When you were selling machine tools, or trying to sell machine tools, I've heard.
Machine tool, he sold one.
But when you were selling it, what kind of barrier to entry was that, the control? Because people get used to. We talked about change and a reluctancy to change. Yeah. What kind of barrier to entry was that? You would, for me, changing someone's perception on buying a different control was really hard. It was really, in fact, you were foolish as a salesperson to try and do that. To be fair, you were better unless there was a really compelling reason for them to swap. You were better identifying the ones that had the control system that you were selling a machine type of, because trying to get somebody to go from a 3-axis machine that using a Heidenhain control across to a Fanuc or a Siemens in those days was really difficult, because the controls weren't on par in fairness in those days. There was a lot of differences. Some of the control systems didn't have the same conversational element. You certainly couldn't take a program out of one and put it into another, which I know these days is still not something that's that you can do quickly or easily. But so I would probably look at the areas of the people that had my controls. The difference came, and the answer to your question is when someone was looking at a different technology. So if they went from a 3-axis machine and said, right, I now want to buy 5, then control, you can go in with a new control, because the whole thing is a whole learning process. So they're now learning about a new technology, how to make parts differently. So they're prepared to adapt and change the control at that point. So if you can get someone to change their thought process on how they make parts and buy something that's a different technology, you can win on the control. But to swap, let's say a VMC and go Heidenhain to Fanuc, forget it. I always took the easiest route of resistance, if that's the right thing to say. So that is Citizen. Yeah, so their stand, Hall 20, stand 361, and we'll be on there as well, broadcasting during the week. Next up, still on the machine tool theme, the Starrag group. Now, Starrag have a big stand this year at MACH. It's a meet and greet stand. It's in Hall 18. It's stand 320. Now, we've done, over the past 18 months or so, we've done so much with Starrag here in the UK,
overseas in Europe, in North America as well. Tony's working with Starrag. They have got so much to talk about when it comes to some of the points we're talking about here, about providing a machine tool that can do one-hit machining, providing a machine tool that can, cut titanium like a knife through butter. From these large, huge machine tools, 5-axis machines working in the aerospace sector, machining wing spars, right the way down to machines like their Boomertech machine when I was in Switzerland a couple of weeks ago, where they're making parts for the medical industry, the dental sector, the luxury goods market. The Starrag Group do have an answer to pretty much every industry's requirements when it comes to their machine. And one thing they will have on their stand to attract people will be a magician. Now, I know you like a bit of magic, Gio, don't you? But did you see him last time round, 2 years ago?
No,
really
I didn't.
Good. Really good. Clearly you'll go to Starrag's stand to meet the guys there and talk to them about reducing cycle times and some of the products that they can make. But by having a magician on the stand does draw in the people. So
I think what they can make on their machines is magic. I can remember I went to AMB not last year before, and I had a real good chat with one of their technical experts about the product. I think it was a world premiere at the time that they were exhibiting, and I was blown away. Really, I don't think that obviously the machine and the technology is second to none. But also the technical expertise behind their products is fantastic, and I think you couldn't. Again, going back to the point you were making about control, you couldn't sell a product like that without that technical expertise. So the whole package is excellent, and they're looking at project work, aren't they? Yeah. The applications that their machines are for, a lot of the time, are to make something that's never been made before.
Yeah.
And the way in which they do it is brilliant.
Yeah.
There can't be many machine tool manufacturers out there that can produce a wing spar for for an aircraft out of aluminium, which is as long as the eye can see almost, down to a little tiny pin for a watch.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And you've got to think that I know the different groups within the company, but the expertise that some of the guys have, certainly from the UK that I've been working with, Lee and Paul Sajak and Phil and others, they know all of these sectors, and they know the pain points in machining parts in these sectors and the potential solutions to be able to provide, and the problems that manufacturers face. Some of the things we're talking about here. I mean, their Boomertech machine that was looking at a couple of weeks ago in Switzerland, we've a whole series of movies coming to our channel of actually parts, and little watch parts, watch plates, bone plates, dental abutments, I think they're called, bits that go in your jaw, your teeth. And I mean, honestly, some of these. The interesting thing about these movies that we've made, and what you can see on the Starrag stand in terms of parts, is some of the parts you can relate to in real life. That hopefully one day you won't need. You might need your hip replaced at some point, Joe. Or you might need both, and if you do, they're likely to have been made on a Boomertech.
I think
I feel assured.
what you're saying there, though, Paul, I think with Starrag is that they actually work with the OEMs. So you mentioning pain points. So they'll know the pain points of the aerospace companies, and they'll work collaboratively to make a machine tool to mitigate them pain points. Yeah. So them machine tools are not just a generic machine tool that have been made to make any part. They've been made in such a way that mitigates the pain points that these manufacturers were incurring, and that's what really makes them so special. And you do see them at big educational facilities and research centres.
I tell you what, that is a brilliant segue. If that's the right thing, or is that one of the things that you stand on at Centre Parks? But the Starrag Group are on Hall 18, stand 320. Well worth a visit to talk to the guys there. You will see their plant in, like Gio says, educational establishments, places like the AMRC, which takes us on to talk about the AMRC, because we're going to be doing some work with them at the MACH show too. Perhaps one of you two guys just give us a little bit of information about the AMRC for those that don't know, and the type of thing they would be showing, and we would encourage people to visit their stand to look at during the week.
I think that we mentioned education, Education is key in everything that we do. In life, education is key if we want to continue evolving and getting better. And effectively, that's what the AMRC is a research centre. So again, we mentioned the OEMs working collaboratively with machine tool builders such as Starrag. The AMRC bring their machine tools in, and then they start working on projects to make the next aerospace component that's never been made before in the most efficient way, or to cut material, a new material that's never been made before. But we're going to be going on to their stand at MACH. I'm really looking forward to it, to learn exactly what they're going to be showcasing. But it's all about really digitalization and how you can become more efficient through digital products, like we've mentioned briefly during this podcast. I think it is the future in life. Even how we sell. But the digital products, I think that you need to go on the stand, on the AMRC stand, because they're practicing what they preach. They are the pioneers of some of this new technology.
And it's so important for our country.
It's important for the world. I think that they're pioneers. They're working with world-leading OEMs on new technologies and ways to become more efficient, more profitable by implementing these new technologies. And I think we've got to look at the next generation of engineers that are coming through. These are the engineers that will be using this technology really on a day-to-day basis, because the technology that you'll be seeing on the AMRC stand is brand new. Yeah. It is brand new. So I would urge and encourage anyone, whether you're a student or you're a CEO of the company or anyone in between, to go onto the AMRC stand and find out more. It will be an education.
We're blessed, aren't we? I think we've probably all been to AMRC on a number of occasions. They've got everything from the largest machine tools, in the world, most accurate machine tools, some of which we've just spoken about, to cutting tool technology, software, and how all that kind of comes together and tethers together. But I urge you do, for sure, go and see AMRC Hall 6, stand 160, I believe, Paul.
Yeah, and I've got stand 750 here as well, so I don't know, is there
a
partnership?
They're part of the Knowledge Hub, aren't they,
okay.
which is new to MACH.
So that's a big point, again, education.
I think there'll be good guys to come on our live podcast, which will be happening at 4:00 every afternoon from our stand. And we'll encourage you to visit. And if you can't visit, you'll be able to watch that live podcast across our channels throughout the MACH week, which is happening from April the 15th to April the 19th. Now, if you want to visit what I believe is going to be the biggest stand at the event, then you'll need to find out where Mills CNC are. And that's what we're going to tell you now. They're in Hall 19, stand 110. Now, as you would expect, this stand is going to have some incredible machine tool technology on it too, but a rather different theme, as they always do. Now, do you remember back at MACH 2022, the Mills CNC stand? How can you not forget? Well, no, you didn't forget it. But I mean, you have to say, in terms of their imagination and capturing people's attention. Forget the machines. Okay, the machines are important, and we'll talk about those, and we know about the DN Solutions machines and the others that they'll be supplying there. But when it comes to a stand, if you want something that's going to turn your head, something that's going to go, you're going to go. I remember that. Yeah. Certainly 2022 was with their Broadway, their Broadway look. Well, this year it's about Space Odyssey. Out of this world, as they're saying. So you can only begin to imagine what this is going to look like. As I said, it will be the biggest stand at the event. It's going to have 16 machines, 2 automated cells. It's going to be in Hall 19, stand 110, as I said, 750 square meters of technology. Now, 8 of the milling machines will include 3 and 5 axis technology, as well as their Zaya machines. So Zaya is a product that Mills CNC have been selling and supporting now probably for a couple of years. They will have one of their machines on show. I believe it's going to have an integrated 5-axis table within it. And so it's slightly different to the DN Solutions machines, which we all know and see so commonly across social media and in machine shops. They'll also have 7 DN Solutions lathes and an SMX. Now, if you take and look around and look at the machines that they're showing there, the new DVF 4000, the DVF 5000, which are 5-axis machining centres, their DN lathes, which they've got, the small turning centres right the way up to the multi-axis twin turret machines, and also a horizontal machining centre on the milling side. The Zaya machine and an SMX, which is a multitasking machine. You've kind of got, you can see why they've selected what they've selected, because there's something for every type of machining operation that you could want to do. They've also got a vertical lathe as well. So I don't know how many vertical lathes are going to be at MACH this year, but certainly Mills CNC will have a DN Solutions vertical lathe. They'll also have the two automation cells I talk about, one of which is a drawer system, which I've seen before. You open the drawer, load the drawer one side, and then the drawer kind of goes through and it opens automatically.
And that's their own solution.
It's their own synergy solution, so they'll be able to do that there. So it's fair to say, guys, I know it's probably consumed a lot of my time there, but I'm sure you guys will be excited to attend. And in your opinion, why do you think people should?
Yeah, well, like you say, technology aside, I remember the last one, and it felt like you're walking through Vegas, didn't it? Beautifully lit, the design, the creative is fantastic, but obviously it's always overshadowed by the technology there. What I like about Mills, if I'm a startup company, I need my first 2-axis lathe, I could speak to Mills. If I'm the largest manufacturer of the world, making them prismatic components, 5-axis components, multi-axis turned components, and now with Zaya, massive components. They can do all that, and obviously coupled with, I don't know how big their service department is. I know it's colossal. So you've got the benefit of all the benefits of working with a company like Mills CNC as well in terms of the staff. We've talked on this podcast a lot about product specialists. I know they have them in abundance at Mills as well. So yeah, do go and have a look. You'll learn a lot, I'm sure.
It doesn't leave a lot for me to say, left about Mills. I think that they're a proven company, aren't they, for a long time. I mean, you worked there, Paul, and you've got a lot of knowledge about their product portfolio from the past. I used to visit them from my first MTA Kitagawa days, and they've just evolved with time and become better and better and added to that product portfolio. I think the range is key. I think having a machine for all applications, for all sizes of business, whether small, large, and everywhere, anything in between, bringing the new Zaya range in is brilliant. For them to go into new markets. And I think that, like you mentioned, Joe, the specialists, it's not just the machines, but the specialists behind the machines that can get the very best out of them machine tools for their clients. It's a trusted machine tool, not just in UK, but around the world.
Yeah, it will be a head-turning stand, I'm sure. And as I said at the start of this, the biggest at the event, Hall 19, stand 110. Get yourself to the Mills CNC stand to see the DN Solutions machines that they supply. In fact, 16 of them, and also a Zaya machine on 750 square metres. So that's some stand. Shunk. We worked with them in 2022 and been working with Shunk for many years, in fact. Robotics, workholding, it's a whole myriad of products that I assume Shunk will be showing off.
That's exactly it. You could dedicate a hall to Shunk, couldn't you? It's, I don't know, Gio's got a lot to say about the Shunk product, but it's everything in and around that machine tool, isn't it? It's the work holding, from quite straightforward work holding right up to 0 point, very accurate work holding. They have tool holders. They have tool holders that can interact with machine tools now. They've got there's so much. The things I want to choose to focus on, really, they've got the Tendo Slim AX, I think they're called, the 4AX, which are Shunk would say that they're there to go against shrink fit machines, basically. Great for deep pockets, thin wall machining, where you've got to get as close to the component as possible.
Go against shrink fit machines. So what do you mean against a shrink fit machine? So
holders. So obviously hydraulic holders in the past, they can be quite large. Yeah. Whereas if you look at a shrink fit machine, it's a lot. It's a lot slimmer, isn't it? Historically, when you're going into ports thin wall, when you've got thin wall machining, you've got to get down into a bottom. They're fantastic. The targeting shrink fit with it. So it's a good solution.
I mean, when I look at Shunk, I'm trying to think of what they couldn't supply me outside of the machine tool. I think you could spend a lot of time kind of journeying around from one end of what you need as a manufacturing solution to another.
Pneumatic vices, grippers, like big massive chucks, small chucks.
I think for me, what we've got to look at again is our current environment and everyone looking to adopt automation. I think, they're renowned for their grippers, and they always have been, and also their work holding. But work holding has changed now, so it will change even further, because you look at all the legacy machines tools that are out in the market. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of them that are not currently automated, that have got mechanical work holding systems on them. If they want to automate their machine tools, it's not just about putting a robot onto that machine tool, it's about changing the work holding too. So whether it gets palletized, or they're using 0 point, or they're using other solutions that they have to offer, it needs to change. So this is a big thing in the UK and around the world for all legacy machine tools, not to mention all the new machine tools that are being sold. It's a massive, gigantic market for that. But then also, if we go on to the lathes, we talk about automating a lathe and changing components, but Shunk have took that one step further. So now they can actually automate setups. So they've got new chucks now where the robot can go in and change the jaws to accommodate for a different size billet. And again, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And I think that if you want to be at the cutting edge of technology and be as competitive as you possibly can be and make as much money as you possibly can be, again, it's down to getting everything absolutely spot on. So I always look at the machine tool as the blank canvas. You need a great machine tool with a great spindle and a great control and everything that we've mentioned. But the art, in my opinion, is the work holding.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. What you're referring to there, Rapido A2 quick change jaws for the chucks. And we've seen it at various manufacturers. I've seen it at Yamazaki Mazak and Worcester. I've seen it at various other places where the robot is doing the work, but equally a human being can do it. In fact, Marcel, the managing director down there at Shunk, he sent me an iPhone video, just a quick demo. And he was holding the phone in one hand and changing it. It was loose on the table. He was able to change it with one hand in seconds.
Great design.
So you can again, it's automation ready. You don't need to. Not everybody is going to want to automate that process at this moment in time. But by buying it future-proofs your business. Plus, it's just quick change, seconds.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so that's the Shunk stands, Hall 18, stand 311. To take a look at, as we mentioned, a whole host of solutions, from work holding, gripper technology, automation, palletization or pallets and so forth. Right, air turbine spindles. What are you going to tell me about this one? Because I remember doing a video with our friend overseas, Mr. Tony Gunn, back in about 2014.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Stand.
We'll have to bring it. For those watching, we'll have to put it on the screen.
Yeah. And so air turbines. Yeah, Joe, you've been working on this one, or you'll be talking about this one.
Yeah, it's a fantastic product. It's a fantastic company. Shane and Jem and the rest of their team will be at the show. It's an exciting product. Essentially, CNC machine tools. They have a spindle. Some 8,000 RPM, 10,000, 15, 20, 25,000. Some of them. And even higher, I guess, but these up to 90,000 RPM.
But I always think to myself, I'm not going to have any torque in this thing. It's going to spin at that speed.
It's not about torque.
Okay, but you still need some form of, you take a high speed spindle. Okay, so are we suggesting, and I'm sure we're not, but I'm playing devil's advocate here, that a 20,000, 24,000, whatever it is, spindle that you can put onto a machine, which I assume this is going to give me similar output in terms of power as buying a machine with that.
Well, it depends what your class is power. Clearly, you're not going to put a 63 mil porcupine cutter and run through a piece of titanium. But that's not what it's about. That's not what it's about at all. It's about looking at advanced modern machining strategies. It's about taking small depths of cut, but incredibly fast. If you look at any cutting tool manufacturer's book of small diameter drills, small diameter end mills, 90% of machine tools can't get to the recommended data, really? which hemorrhages tool life and various other things. But these, what I like about it, your spindle sat at 0, it's programmed as 0. So you're not, if you run a machine tool, if it's a 20k spindle and you run it at 20k on the job, for days and days and days and days. Don't get me wrong, modern machine tool spindles are very, very good, but they're not designed to be run flat out all the time, whereas these are. It can also be tool change, which is a massive advantage.
So where am I getting my power from? Where am I getting my energy from to drive this spindle?
Have a guess. Clues in the name.
Hydraulics.
Yeah. No, it's joking aside. You should go and see. It's actually on a DN Solutions machine, DNM 4000, provided by MTDCNC, who we've already talked about on this podcast.
And I'm assuming these can be interfaced with any machine type, though, can they?
Yeah, no, for sure. So obviously here we're talking about machine integrated spindles. They also have handheld ones. I don't know if when I used to deburr components, you do it for half an hour. You couldn't feel your hands, could you?
Vibration white.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas these, and they do a demonstration on their pyramid. You can go and you can have a grind. You can barely feel it. You could use it all day and you'd have no issues at all. And that's a massive seller for the company. But yeah, no, do go and see them. Go and see Stand 2472.
I think Joe, you've explained that perfectly. But I'll give you one example, a real life example of where I really needed air turbines. Is again going back to my aerospace days. I had this round part with, I think, about 8 holes on a PCD, and each hole was around 0.8 diameter, and it's 25 mil depth, the actual part. So you had to do it, hit it from both sides and then match up the holes. It was a loss leader. You couldn't make any money off it, especially with the machine tool that we had, because we couldn't run the spindle fast enough for long enough to be able to do these holes. And subsequently, I blew up the spindle because I was running it for too long at maximum speed, and to try and get these holes produced. So again, for an application like that, and also surface finish, we've not mentioned surface finish. So to achieve some certain surface finishes, you need to have that speed.
Yeah.
Do you know a way around it?
No.
Call air turbine spindles.
Oh, there you go.
You've not been listening.
There you go.
So there you go. Air turbine spindles, Hall 20, stand 472, as Joe said there. Just a couple left to talk about. MACH, April the 15th to the 19th at the NEC in Birmingham. As we've said throughout this show, we will be live on our stand from 4 o'clock every day, doing a live podcast in association with the MTA. We'd encourage you to come and watch or come and join us to participate. Heimer, Hall 20, stand 446. I mean, is there a show around the world that Heimer don't attend?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Probably somewhere in some random country, but
yeah. I mean, we see them everywhere. They've got quite a big social media following. They always have very, very large stands. Great products. Clearly, I see them also at open houses. They're so got great representation. What could people expect to, and why should Heimer be on their list or on their list to visit during the week?
Well, the thing with Heimer, it's whether you want to, improve your cycle times. I need better tool holders. In fact, cutting tools as well now, all the way down to the cutting tools, the end mills. It's where do you start? They do everything, don't they? So they balance tools. That's something we don't talk about a lot on MTD, but it's something that's overseas is adopted a lot. The balancing of your cutting tools.
That makes a lot of difference to your tool life, and
it is, but it's seldom done over here. If you go to the large aerospace manufacturers, they're all doing it. Or the some of the more advanced car manufacturers are doing it. But when we talk about the SME, it's this education process. They say you wouldn't drive your car at 100 mile an hour with your tyres out of balance. Doesn't sound like that, but and it's exactly true. But that's how many RPMs a car doing? Not many, and these things are doing 10, 20, 30,000 sometimes. But we talk. Obviously, they do heat shrink. They do vast amounts of technology. They've got a new agreement with Windtool. There's breaking news on that on their stand. Go and find out what that's all about. But there's lots, solutions for storage of components.
Well, I saw
and things.
something at one of the Starrag events in June last year in Switzerland, where they had a tool carousel, and they were picking a tool out. Or they had tool storage, and then they were measuring tools, putting them then into a carousel, back out, heat shrinking them, back in it, all done it automated. So, clearly
Yeah. Then in terms of they're always pushing the boundaries. People say, "Oh, there's only so much you can do with a tool holder. There's only so much you can do with a shrink machine." But when you integrate it all together, it's pretty clever.
Complete process again, Joe. I think it's a quality product, a quality company with quality people, and I think that they're providing a solution. And tool holders, again, something that people overlook. A tool holder is a tool holder. Well, no, it's not actually, because that is what's actually the first thing that's actually in contact with your spindle, which is the most precious part of your machine tool. And if you don't look after your spindle, then the spindle's not going to look after you.
Tool life, but what about your spindle as well? I mean,
you've got to look after your spindle, and if you want to get the best out of your machine tool, you need to have the best tool holders.
Look after your spindle will
looks
look after
you. Exactly.
Yeah. I've heard that before somewhere.
Have you?
Where's
That's
that?
a good one. Someone will probably pitch that.
Yeah, probably 2 years ago on a podcast.
So that's the Heimer stand, Hall 20, stand 446.
Yeah.
Normally do a good party as well, don't they?
I don't know if they do them at MACH. I know there's restrictions on time, but if you ever go into any German trade shows, be sure to make that your last call of the day, as it were.
But don't have anything planned in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Whilst we're talking about Heimer, another manufacturer we haven't discussed yet, Rainford Precision. They'll be showing a Kern machine. It's for those, I know, Paul, with your machine tool background, they're showing the Kern Micro HD. I know it's a machine we've seen at trade shows around Europe. It's the first one I've seen here in the UK. I know there's a vast amount out there in the field now, but small footprint, very, very fast, nimble machine, Kern.
Yeah, I mean, the Kern machines, there was a company we went to, a research centre. I can't remember whether it was the AMRC, Joe, but I can't remember where it was. But yeah, when you look at, and you can often find them on social media posts, these amazing mirrored finishes, the speed of them, the agility of them, they're quite small and compact, but real tight tolerance, high surface finish, hard materials. These machines, the Kern machines, are exceptional in their performance. There isn't many machining centres that you could look at in the marketplace and get a similar result in terms of what you can achieve accuracy-wise than a Kern. And I don't think there's many people that could dispute that. Another stand that we've spoke about earlier, in fact, Sodic, they on their stand do also have one of their machining centres, high performance, high precision machining centres, which kind of fits into a similar marketplace when it comes to the types of parts that you would machine. But certainly machines like that are few and, they're definitely few and far between. Is there actually going to be a Kern machine on the stand?
There is, yeah. Again, it's sold. It's another one that they've sold. They're having a very good time with it at the boat Rainford Precision, selling a lot of these machines. They can be found Hall 19, stand 409. But what I like, and I did take a few notes, what I like about the Kern machine, it's tiny. It's less than 5 meters square, but everything's in there. It's a machining cell. You can get up to 60 work pieces and up to 210 tools, all within that envelope. They're fast, they're nimble, their thermal stability is exceptional. And when you look at the surface finish of those machines, it looks like they've been put on a linishing brush.
Well, it does,
it
does. Yeah, I mean, you look at, like I say, often they're great on social media. You'll scroll through and you'll see this part. It's like a mirror. It's like a shining, and you look at it and you go, wow, that's pretty good. Oh, yeah, it doesn't even distort the...
So, go and check them out. Okay,
so next up, we are talking GripTech. Geo, Hall 20, stand 428. GripTech is who are they? What is their product? And again, why see them at MACH?
Well, GripTech is a relatively new company business, to the UK. Jason Short started the company, and they're sole agents predominantly for fifth axis. So fifth axis, self-centering vices, but they're a lot more than just that. So they do bases, it's the pneumatic rock lock base, but normal mechanical bases, 0-point bases too. So they've got a whole portfolio of work holding products for so many different applications, whether you're talking a 3-axis machine, a 4th-axis horizontal machine, or a 5th-axis machine, tombstones, pyramids, and it's all interchangeable and modular, which is what I really like about it, because you could be using something on your 3-axis and with the 0-point transfer it over to your 5th-axis and so on
All
and so
milling.
forth. It's all milling, yes, Paul. And I think that some of the products, with the self-centering vices, for example, they don't need to be crimped. You've got a dovetail cutter that you can kind of use to prep the parts with. And you've got soft jaws as well for second op work. But for me, again, I think it's the automation. So it's automation ready as well with some of the pneumatic products that they offer. And like what we talked about previously, when we're looking at the future of manufacturing and the legacy machine tools that are out in the field, their work holding will need to change at some point in time, whether it's palletized, whether they're using pneumatic or hydraulic work holding solutions so it can be robot loaded and interfaced with the machine tool. And I think that Griptech are really well positioned in the marketplace to win a lot of new business. And I think with Jason at the helm, is going to do a fantastic job. And I would strongly recommend anyone that's not been or heard of Griptech yet to visit them at MACH, because I think that they will be extremely impressed.
Yeah. The two things I like about the 5th-axis product, and the one silly comment, I guess, it's attractive. Have you seen it, Paul? It's like really nice looking work holding. I know you don't necessarily buy products on how they look, but they are.
But we were talking about that earlier, about customers wanting to impress customers. I mean, I get your point. It's
it's
more about what it does.
But obviously,
they're
of course, they're reliable and all the other things you'd expect from a leading provider. But it's really attractive. And the other thing, their philosophy on the dovetail. Obviously, we talk about work holding. I'm not saying one's right over another, but it's interesting how them as a manufacturer, they like this dovetail scenario. I know they've got other solutions as well, but how you machine the dovetail in, and it's a physical hard location, isn't it?
I think that they've got different jaw options as well, quick change jaw options.
So they're going to have a lot. They're going to be showing a lot of this at the show. So
100%. And I think going back to your point, Joe, about how it actually looks, it does the job as well as looks good. But when you're spending £500,000 on a new machine tool, you want it to look good. You want it to impress people that are coming to visit your facility. And I think it does have an effect. If you've got pride in what you do, the machine tools, you look at the machine tools, how they used to look, 20 years ago, they were green boxes and they weren't really that attractive. But you look at them now, they do look like we mentioned space and out of this world. But it is about these products within your manufacturing facility are representing your business. And I think that, again, like going back to I haven't covered all of the range that Griptech offer because there's just so many different solutions.
Go to the show to see.
But go to the show to have a look and check them out.
Okay, so that's Griptech. That is Hall 20 stand 428. Hall 20 stand 428. We've got two left to talk about before we summarise finally about MACH. We are going to talk about Chester Machine Tools. This is a company we did a fair bit of work with a few years ago and helped them in the launch of one of their new machining centres. They're going to be at the event. What are they going to be showcasing?
I think that with Chester Machine Tools, they've got a portfolio of machine tools that start from the very beginning, if you like.
And that's where you would probably, a lot of people might associate them at this stage with that. I mean, I know we pushed a lot a couple of years ago, and they got some new installations of CNC as a result of that.
Well, I think that the bread and butter, or maybe historically the bread and butter, was manual machine tools, which they still offer a very large range of manual machine tools, and they're actually launching let me just find it, they're actually launching a new GP50 Plus pillar drill with touchscreen control that will be at the show. But they'll also be doing live machining on the VL7 VMC CNC machine and the Hawk Lathe TC200L live machining demos on that. So if you're not familiar with the CNC products that they offer, please visit them to check out the CNC machine tools that they have available. But, you know, Brian, who's the new sales director there, you know, I was talking to him and he says that, you know, again, positioning themselves, they're a complete solutions provider and they will look to provide a solution based on the application that the client's got. And it's not just the CNC machine tools that they provide, but they've got grinding machines, bandsaws, anything in the workshop that you require, you know, they will have a solution for you. And again, really looking forward to go on their stand and to look at some of the new CNC machine tools, because we were really impressed, really, Paul, when we first seen them machine tools.
Yeah, I think if you go to there, I cannot remember exactly where they're located. I know we went there and we'd quite a big facility. The machines you talk about, like often, you know, everyone needs one, a bandsaw or, you know, pillar drills and all these things we've all used, but they're kind of all in the same colours, all the same brand, just shows the depth of their offering. I think what they represent to me at MACH is a company that, you know, offers you choice. And when there's a machine shops need the machines that they've got. There are some companies that we work with, suppliers of product, that not every machine shop would require the type of kit they're supplying. But Chester Machine Tools is a sort of machine you could associate with most manufacturers, small to medium-sized companies, whatever they're making, whatever they're machining, you know, they should be in the mix to be considered, really, shouldn't they?
Absolutely, and I think we've got to touch upon that also the educational colleges, universities that need, you know,
good value machines, really good value machines.
Absolutely, 100%.
With a good pedigree.
Visit Chester Machine Tools.
So that is Chester Machine Tools are at the MACH show, and they're in Hall 6, stand 331. And as we keep saying throughout this show, we will be live every day at MACH from 4 o'clock doing our podcast in association with the MTA. We'll be talking about some of these stands that we've been on and been looking at their technologies throughout the day and inviting you to come on to our podcast as well. And of course, we'll be hoping to get some of our customers and clients onto that to talk about their experiences at MACH and how the show is going. The show runs from the 15th to the 19th of April. Get yourself to the NEC and get registered by visiting machexhibition.com. Final company we're going to talk about in this podcast is Microlock.
Yeah, so Microlock. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, no, Microlock. I mean, again, work holding. This is an area of work holding that will cover from your smallest milling machine right the way up to a huge machining centre, kind of grid plate fixturing, modular fixturing, where you've got clamps and locators that you can position across your machine bed so you can hold very small parts and very large parts and go from one to the other very quickly. That's their product. Why would they... why would you visit their stand? Well, I think as Geo, for me, what you've said is that every machine that you have in the machine shop, you need to get the best out of, and that can be by introducing new methods and new ways to hold parts. And you might also have tricky components that you can't hold without using some pretty clever fixturing and work holding. So Microlock is a product that I'm sure you'll have seen across our channels. It would be well worth a visit. But they also have a new product which they'll be talking about there, which, Gio, I know you've been all the way to France to see it, haven't you? But it'll be bringing it to this show, something to do with automation.
Yeah, so they've got a new automation solution that will be at the show. And I think that it really complements their existing range of work holding extremely well. So it's a palletized solution, very small footprint, and it sits next to your machine tool from engineering data. I think going back to your point about the Microlock system, I think that, you mentioned becoming more productive, more profitable. I think with that particular work holding solution, what it really, really does in my eyes, it gives you the opportunity to present more components to the spindle and to fully utilise the envelope of your machine tool, especially on a 3-axis machine tool, but also on a 5th-axis machine tool. And I think that if you're looking to hold a very large part to the machine tool's full capacity, or to hold lots of small parts, it really fits the bill. And with the gridded system as well, I think we touched upon it as well earlier about kind of having your parts repeating and going back into the same positions. You can set universal datum points, for example, using that particular system. So I think with the work holding that they've got, and they've also got pneumatic and hydraulic solutions as well for automation, palletized solutions, 0 point solutions. Now a new automation solution, which I can't emphasize enough how good it is. You really need to go to the show and see Microlock to see some of the new evolution, really, or innovations that they've got on show.
Yeah, Microlock, I've seen literally parts the size of this bed, pretty much, being held with four relatively small vices and just a bit of support in the middle. And then I've seen large machines where you've got maybe, 20 components on there. Left-hand side of the table is op 10, right-hand side's op 20, so right-hand side's all coming off complete, and then obviously you swap over from your hard jaws to your soft jaws. And it's everything in between, isn't it? It's very user-friendly. There's no clocking in. I guess obviously you have to clock the bed in initially, but you only have to do that once. And then where you can pick these vices up for those who haven't seen it, and within seconds you can go from a 300 mil job down to a 400, 500, 600 mil or smaller. But it's like seconds, isn't it?
It's all efficiency. And I think if you go into the event to look at machine tools and you buy a machine tool, which happens clearly at MACH, you're going to need all these, other products to go with it to support your purchase. And I know Microlock will be able to assist you, and not just on the work holding that we talk about, but on the automation front as well, which is now exciting for them as a business. Guys, we're going to have to wrap this one up. There is other podcasts that have been released and will be released in the coming days and weeks, all about MACH 2024. We've covered a lot of the stands that we're going to be on during the week, but there is more. There is more, but I can't encourage you enough to not just listen to what we're talking about. We obviously vocalize what we think and why people should visit, and some of the reasons that some of these stands are important to go to, but you got to get yourself there. The MACH show happens every other year. This year it's happening on the 15th to the 19th of April, Monday to Friday. Really easy to get to when it comes to accessibility, just off the M6, the M42, even the train links, from around the world straight into Birmingham International, and you can be in the MACH show within literally a few minutes. It is the UK's largest manufacturing show with the most machinery. And as we said on this podcast, we've spoken about some of the technology that will be on show, and some of the leading suppliers of product will be at MACH. So it is the place to go to find out all you need about your next innovation purchase. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you. Don't forget, we'll be doing a live podcast every day at 4:00 from the show, so you'll be able to join us and catch up on the highlights that we'll be broadcasting from the week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the MTDCNC podcast, sponsored by Langley Alloys, specialists in a wide range of exotic materials for any application for all your engineering needs.